When you're playing a game that you've played a few times, but you've never done very well at, do you ever get in your head that, like, okay, play this as if it's a solo game, like just ignore like the scores of everyone else, just focus on your own score? Do you know what I mean?
No, I have ADHD. I don't I don't have that kind of ability. I guess no, I should technically, because that is like hyper focusing, isn't it?
I don't know.
Like you blot everything out, like nothing else
Like,
exists.
obviously you have to still interact within the bounds of the game. Like if it's a worker placement, you know, you still have to adhere to those rules.
Yeah.
So if someone else has gone there and you can't go there, then, you know, you still have to do that. But otherwise, like the actual scoring, like, okay, well, this is what I scored last time. Can I get better than my own score? It doesn't matter how, like, even if I come fourth or third or whatever, I'm just going to try and do better.
Yeah, no, I guess that is hyper focusing. Yeah. So yes, and at those times I do really well because I can just like really feel in the zone, and it's like you're riding a wave. You know, nothing can stop you
Until a bigger wave comes along and you crash out.
That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Let's pretend it doesn't exist. That's the whole thing, right?
Welcome to the Talk Cardboard podcast, a podcast about board games and everything adjacent, with me, Elaine, and you.
Sneezes.
Oh, yeah, I have been sneezing a lot. I've taken an antihistamine, though, now, so hopefully I won't sneeze as much.
I think people can hear that my voice is different today, but that's not because I'm ill. That's just because of the allergies. So enjoy a deep, husky Evka.
We'll cut out any sneezes. On this episode, we will be talking about the old King's Crown. But first...
A work in progress.
Oh, I like the jingle.
Thank you. New. It's not going to be a thing.
Oh, okay. Do you want this to be a thing? Write in at elaine@nopunincluded.com.
Shut up. Shut up. I'm not doing it.
Let's talk about Emberleaf, which is a game I have now played. We have spoken about it before last time, but I hadn't played it at that point.
We also do need to do the disclaimer again. Every time we talk about this, we have to do the disclaimer. Emberleaf is designed and published by Frank West from the City of Games, who is a friend of ours, right? So there is like all the bias here, right? Please, bias.
You know, whenever we say that, I imagine Frank listening and going, I'm supposed to be their friend? What? I didn't know this. Oh, okay.
No.
Do I have to do anything now?
No. I think it warms his heart.
I hope so. So I hadn't played this before. I'd played it for the first time. I thought it was very good. My brain melted. You were right. You said to me, this is going to melt your brain. It did.
Right? You just so don't expect it. And It is so very brain melting. Can you tell us a little bit more about how your brain melted?
I think it was mostly the mechanism where, so you have spaces where you play cards. And I think there are 3 spaces to begin with, and there's a 4th one that's unlockable. But so in these 3 spaces, you can place the card in any of them. And it was particularly that of, actually there's 6 because there's 3 at the top and 3 at the bottom.
Yeah.
And as well as playing cards, you can shift the cards, which means they all move one to the left and maybe they drop off the end. And that working out where was best to place which card, so it did like the maximum stuff that it could do, and did an appropriate appropriate interactions with things, just was something else.
Once you get past that, I'm starting to get a little bit past that now.
Because you're an expert now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're such expert. Very pro gamer. Chef kiss. Mwah.
Oh.
You know, very good at this game, obviously. No. But I think there's like the weird edgy parts are starting to really kind of take center stage in Emberleaf, for me at least, where like there's very precise and punishing timing, like to win these trophies, which are like point scoring opportunities, but like they don't happen. And then on the sixth time someone does something, they do happen, right? So it's only that sixth time that counts. So that's that you need to time that. Then like the other way to get a trophy is to be the last person to put like a building tile down on because like the map on the board is segmented into these like
hexes.
clumps of spaces, and so if you fill up a clump, you also get a trophy. And it's like the last person to do something, and it's so hard to time these things because they depend on like that very complicated sliding puzzle you're doing, because your deck doesn't grow that much. You add max 4 cards, right, to your deck, and so you have to have the right cards in the right place at the right time, and then the circumstances have to come up the right way, and your opponent's circumstances also have to be right for you. So the timing is really, really hard to execute, and I think that's where like the really kind of it's like when you're watching someone do like, I don't know, card tricks or something like that, where they're driving a car in a really
or like car, not card.
Or card tricks,
right,
or pool tricks, or whatever. You know, something that requires like
swimming, pool tricks.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Diving,
of course. Yeah, not like the sport pool. Just swimming.
I see.
Yeah,
they're both sports. No.
Well,
anyway.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Swimming is a sport.
Yes, it is.
Anyway.
Please, I have allergies. So yeah, like you're watching. Did
you just say, please, I have allergies?
Yes. Like, feel sorry for me.
Do you want an antihistamine?
No, I'm okay. So yeah, it's like watching someone do really cool tricks of something that requires a lot of mastery, right? That's how that feels like. If you manage to somehow execute it, you're like, wow, I'm cool. And if your opponents execute it, you're like, wow, I'll never be cool.
Yeah, like if you're doing the magic trick yourself, you want everyone else to be amazed at how you've done this thing.
Yeah.
The thing that is tricky with this is that I don't think I've ever played a game where this is the case. So normally a game will say to you, you know, you play your cards and they go to discard, or you play cards and then it comes straight back to your hand, so you can play it again. So like either one of those two kind of polar extremes, or the card is lost in some way and goes away forever. So, you know, be careful with when you play it. Here, you are the master of your own actions, right?
Yeah.
Because you can play a card right at the end of the row and it will fall off next turn, like, and then slide the cards and it will fall off next turn. So you will have it back to play again. Or you can put it right on the end.
You can if you've got the spaces for it. But if you messed up the whole, like, right? Yeah.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's very tricky, because if at any point you fill up your board fully, you then have to do the slide action 4 times until the last space is empty again.
Yeah, that is brain melty,
right? Yeah.
Because you get a card stuck and you're like, well, I don't really want to slide because I'm going to lose this card that when it falls off, you know, it lets me build or whatever, and I can't do that yet, so I don't want to do that. But this one is right over here; it's stuck. I really want this action back. So, yeah, it's a puzzle. It's definitely a puzzle, and it's a lot of fun. And the setting of it, or the artwork at least of it, belies the puzzle underneath, because it looks very cute. It's, you know, animals and clothes. I mean, I think most people find that cute. I didn't mind it that much because it's not a big... it's the art on the cards, but it doesn't feature that heavily.
I feel it's fairly anodyne, the artwork. I like it. I think it's nice, but it doesn't speak to the game. Do you know what I mean? I also don't understand the consistency of Frank's world, because, and you brought this up, there are cats, and they are cats. But now they're like cats. They're like pets cats. I don't know. Are they pets or are they?
Well, that is
but they're
one of
cats,
the things.
cats.
It's the whole Goofy and Pluto thing,
Right? Yeah.
Like Goofy is a dog, but is a humanoid dog, and Pluto is a dog, but is a dog. I don't know. Like, yeah, I find that weird. No, I don't. That's one of the things that bothers me on a moral level about animals in clothes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Anywho, yeah. That so the setting doesn't do much for me, and I think it really kind of masquerades the type of game that this is, which is maybe a good thing, But yeah, it is so brain melty, and it is actually like, I think what I like about it is that there is this level of complexity that is hidden behind a really simple rule set. Do you know what I mean? Like, learning this game is not hard. There are like no particularly tricky mechanisms, right? The mechanisms themselves are quite simple and, dare I say the word, elegant. But they are. But the complexity of their interactions is somehow miraculously just really, really crunchy. Good job, Frank.
You played Hot Streak, which is a game that I've seen but have not played, and I was enamored by the board that pulls out on a little what do you call it, like a roly-poly thing.
Yeah, let's go with that. Why not?
Where you pull it out and then you roll it back in.
See, there's no podcast in the world that can do Hot Streak justice, because the only way to understand Hot Streak is to see the box, and then you're like, oh, okay. So I brought I brought Hot Streak to a board game club in Nottingham, and as soon as I got the box out, like, there was a little crowd around it. Like, oh, what's this?
No.
It speaks for itself. So it's this big, like, square tube thing, right? Where it's full of color, and it has like this see-through bit where the 4 characters of the game are like the mascots are on full display. So you don't need to open the box to see them. And just as well, because these preposterous miniatures are something else. So
that's the selling point. Imagine if they'd covered that up with cardboard.
Yeah. So one's a hot dog, and
one is a fish.
One is a fish. The fish's name is Dangler. I can't remember the hot dog's name, but it's something to do with throwing up. And then there's a queen type character, and the queen's name is just Mum.
Like the Queen Mum?
Yeah, like the Queen Mum.
Okay.
And there's like there's in the rulebook there's a backstory for how every one of these. So all these characters are mascots, right? They're styled as mascots, and there's a backstory for every one of them, like how these mascots came to be. So there's like this backstory of this place called Cleveland in America, where like they didn't realize, but they're still part of England. Like nobody realized, but they're still part of England. Yeah, right. Like, and so like they're like kind of like charmfully celebrating this part of their history. Nobody really like counts it as part of England, but they're like, we're England. Here's a Queen Mum, so that's like their mascot, their team's mascot, right?
I see. But why of all the royals is the Queen Mum? I guess everyone liked her. She was fond of a little snifter here and there.
I don't know, but. Yeah, so that's already charming. I haven't even said what the game is. The game is a betting game. So these mascots race. You pull out, like you said, this track that literally like extends from the board. And then when you're done, there's this like crank, and you just like roll it back up into the box, which is amazing and just fun to do when you're a little bored. So I think thinking of Ready, Set, Bet is probably what most people will associate this with, but they are actually very different games. So Ready, Set, Bet is a racing gambling game where you bet on horse races as the horse races are happening. And it's very kind of frenetic. There's so many different betting spaces that you could put your poker chips on, and then you're doing it frantically because the race is happening and you're like, oh my god, this horse is getting ahead. This is completely the opposite of that.
Oh, really?
Right? So you make 2 bets.
Is it karma?
No.
No.
No, it's somehow magically not. It's, I think like Galaxy Trucker, right?
Okay.
You build your starship and then it just happens, right?
I see.
So this is the same principle, right?
I see.
Like you make your bets and then the race just happens.
So there's a calm bit and then it goes...
Yeah,
Bananas.
kind of, right? I'm also reminded, because on ITV they have The Genius right now.
They do.
They have they design these kind of simple games, but underneath them there's that social element that allows the game to be manipulated sometimes in unpredictable ways, and Hot Streak feels a little bit like that. So you've got you make only 2 bets, right? And you can either bet on one of the races, and you can make the bet safe or risky. Safe means it pays out for first, second, and third place, right? Risky means it pays out more for first place, but less for second and third, right?
I see.
But there are only 4 races, right? So you're likely to get some money any bet you make. The second bet is a yes or no bet, and it's always a different card, and there's 3 races effectively in every game. And he'll say will there be 2 people right at the finish line, at any point in the game? Not past, but right at, right? And then you bet yes or no. And again, you can bet safe or risky. And in the case of risky, if you don't get it right, you'll even lose money, right?
I see.
So you make 2 of these bets in a snaking draft. So first player, second player, third player, fourth player, then fourth player, third player, second player, first player, right? And then you have a deck. You don't use the entire deck that's available in the game, but it is moves that a mascot can make. So mascot...
Are they different? So the hot dog is different from the bear, or...
So because you're not using the entire deck, they're different by that design.
I see.
Right? If that makes sense.
I see.
Because you're using only some of the cards at random. In this game, the bear could move a lot, and mum is mostly gonna fall down and turn around and move backwards, right?
Because she's had a snifter. Yeah. It's nuts.
But each player also gets 3 cards.
Yeah.
Right? And you can put 1 card,
I see,
into this racing deck that the others don't know what it's going to be. And I think that's where a lot of the communicate, because you play 3 rounds, a lot of the communication can happen about hey, you help me out, I help you out.
Oh, so it's a game where you're sharing tips.
You can if you want.
You don't have to.
It's you can't show each other's cards,
No.
but it says you can talk about them and lie. So right, and I haven't experienced much of that yet, and I feel that's going to come in more with. But there's this really delightful moment where it's you have to count off. So one person just deals the cards, and then another person moves all the pieces, right? And everyone else just watches, right? But the first 3 cards are always binned, right?
Oh.
And so you count off as you bin them. You go 3, 2, 1, and then you flip the next card and say go.
Why are they binned?
Well, because not every card's going to resolve, right? So you don't know that some of these cards are going to...
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That's clever.
Right?
Oh, I like that.
It has a lot of little nice design touches, but I think a lot of Hot Streak comes out in this ridiculous production, and also this panache that it has. So, for example, at the end of the rulebook, there's a line for every one of the possible results between 0 and 100, right? So like whatever your winning score is, let's say it's 57. So it has a line how your life shakes out because of this money that you won, right? Like, so for example, at 40, I'm going to spoil one of them. At 40, it was like use the winnings to buy a copy of a game called Hot Streak.
Hey.
Yeah, right? Because it's $40. So it's that kind of thing, you know? Or like you make a little pile from your money to sleep on because you can't afford a sleeping bag, but you have a bunch of $1 bills, you know? Like it's something like that, you know? So it's really the attention to detail here that I think matters. The game kind of speaks for itself via its visuals, via its panache, and as a racing game, I think it's nice in that like I couldn't explain Ready Set Bet to your parents because there's too many niche little bets you have to make, and like there's a lot going on. Hot Streak is probably the simplest of these racing gambling games, but it also is like surprisingly fun and engaging and still has a little bit of like room for you to navigate and do things that are interesting, you know. You get to see the entire deck before you make your bet and stuff like that. But then you don't know what cards are going to be put in. It's exciting. There's something about it that I think is very emergent and almost visceral, you know, like it's good. I liked it.
I like how it's so colourful and bright and cheerful looking for what is essentially a game about gambling.
Well, it says you play as degenerate gamblers. So it's pretty straightforward. I like that it's basically one of those horse racing games that doesn't have any horses. Thank you.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I
My
appreciate
God.
that.
It's so much. This is so much better, right? Because you have these ridiculous characters. It's more fun.
We also played Project L, which is L as in the letter, not L as in Elaine.
I think L is in the Tetris piece.
Well, yeah, it's still a letter.
Yeah. Very quickly about this one. I've not played it before. I've heard many people espouse Project L as a cool thing. So it's a Tetris game, you know?
It is a Tetris game.
You get a piece with a recessed bit, and that recessed bit you have to fill up with like, it's not exactly tetrominos because some of them are smaller. Like the
nice use of tetrominos.
Yeah, the like single piece,
just little squares,
or just little squares, or two pieces, just a little line.
Is a square a tetromino?
No.
Okay.
No, but the square that's made up of 4 squares, that's a tetromino.
Nice.
Yeah. There you go.
It's also not exactly like Tetris because you haven't got things flying at you that you've got to try and place.
Like, there isn't a person just chucking like physical Tetris pieces at you.
Have I been playing Tetris wrong?
Yeah.
No, but it's not as if you flip over a card and that's the piece you have to place.
No.
It's not like that kind of vibe.
No, you kind of build your pool of pieces as you go, because every like little puzzle you complete will give you points and maybe new pieces, or maybe not points, you know, but like a cool piece. And then it's kind of like an action efficiency game, basically, where on your turn you get free actions and you can use them to complete a puzzle piece or take a new puzzle piece. But once per turn, you can like put a piece in every puzzle piece that you have, and you can have maximum up to 4. So like, but you also want to kind of, you know, build up your pool of puzzle pieces before you can utilize that, because you only start with 2. Or you can not do any of that. You can just upgrade a piece to a different or better piece.
Or side grade a piece.
Yeah.
So instead of having level 4, you could have a different level 4 of a different shape, which is maybe the piece that you need.
We only played the base game.
We did.
I know there's a bunch of expansions. We have one of the expansions, which is the Finesse expansion. As I said that, some spam just came through our letterbox and just finessely glided down onto the floor. I don't know why that matters, but it does. So yeah, it's nice. I don't know what else there is to say about it. I enjoyed it. Like, did you feel anything about it that's kind of stand out?
No, not really. I would like to play it more with the expansions because I feel like that first game was an exploratory game. What I did want to say was that I struggle with shape recognition sometimes, and I struggle with fitting pieces in spaces, like object manipulation. There you go. And I was okay in this because the cards have little dots on, so you can see how many squares you need each piece to be.
It's nice. Yeah. What I don't like about it is like how jet black and sort of like almost glossy. It's not glossy, but it is
Why didn't
glossy.
you like that?
Because it leaves finger stains on everything.
Oh, yeah.
It's so annoying. I hated
mate,
it.
yeah.
Like anything you touch, it's immediately, oh, there's a finger smudge, you know.
Yeah, you could not play this secretly. Like, people would know. Your fingerprints would be all over it.
Yeah. Like the production of it is sleek, but it's clearly like we didn't want artwork on this, you know, so everything's just black. So I don't know. I liked it, but I wasn't like immediately in love with it. I guess it is clever. It's a like very self-contained design that makes a lot of sense. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's a nice little puzzle game.
Yeah, it is a nice little puzzle game, but it wasn't like, I don't know.
It didn't blow me away.
No,
right.
yeah, it just didn't.
But I do want to try it with the expansion, see how they change it up. You also played Survive the Island, which I did not play.
So this is... I always wanted to play this game. I was aware of it for ages. This is a game from the 80s. Mm-hmm. It was called Survive Escape from Atlantis. It's now... and there were also like... had different re-implementations. It was called Escape from Atlantis, Survive Escape from Atlantis, Survive Mars Attacks or something. No,
Mars Attacks.
I don't think it was Mars Attacks, but like it was something like, you know, like a space themed one. And I was, you know, it was always like on the periphery. I was always aware of it, but I never played it. It looked funny and silly and kind of clever. And now I played this new version. It is funny, silly, and clever. You know, I understand why this game has such longevity. You basically have 10 pieces, 10 sort of meeples, and underneath them they have numbers 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, right? Those are your victory points, right? And you have to get them from...
Sorry, what numbers were they?
1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5.
Nice.
You have to get them from the central part of the board, hexagonal board, which is an island, to like these four corners, right? So when you place them, you know what you're placing where, but then you're not allowed to look. Mm-hmm. So you're like, wait, was this a 4 or a 5 or a 1? Yeah. And there's so many, like this, imagine a 5-player game. Like there's 50 pieces on the board. Uh-huh. Right? It's absolute chaos.
So it's a memory game. No,
not really. The game is trying to efficiently move these pieces. Again, on your turn you have like 3 actions, and an action is you can move, right? Mm-hmm. But like you have to put them on a raft because the central part is an island, right? Mm-hmm. But then to get to the corners, you have to go through water,
like in Flow.
You know, like in Flow, except nothing like it. But like, who controls the raft, right? Well, whoever has the majority, or everyone if it's like an equal number. And there's 3 spaces for people on each raft, right? So you can move them onto the raft. You can swim, but then you can only move like that piece 1 space a turn. There's of course sharks that other players can and will control and use them to destroy you. And on top of that, every turn, like every time your turn ends, you have to take one of the island pieces away and it becomes water. Mm-hmm. And on it, there could be a bad thing for everyone around it, right? Like a volcano explodes, kills everyone in that space and in this place. No. Yeah, right. Yeah. Or it could be a good thing, like, oh, you can move a raft an extra 2 spaces, like on a later turn, right? So it's chaos and pandemonium, right? You are trying to sink everyone else, and you're trying to get off, desperately trying to remember which of your pieces are the good pieces. There's no way all of them are making it back, right? There isn't. Just say goodbye to half of your people. It's just which ones do you say goodbye to? And do you have control of that? Maybe, maybe not, you know. It's fun, clever. I had a good time, very silly, a good way to pass like half an hour.
Oh, it was a quick game.
It was not long. It maybe 45 minutes, I would say. 45 minutes to an hour, right? Like that was the length of it. But it was good. I enjoyed it.
This implementation, does it change the rules
a little
from
bit?
The others?
I believe so, a little bit. There's a few like very minor rules changes that I've read over. There was a summary on BGG. Someone made a summary of all the rules changes. I was like, oh, okay. And then I forgot what they were.
But having not played the others, then I guess you just came to it. This is the game anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice. Like, try it. It's fun. I wouldn't like, you know, go, yes, you must play this game or something like that. But it was good. If someone says, hey, sit down, play this game with me, and you don't mind a little bit of silliness and, you know, chaos and unpredictability, it's good.
Efka.
Yes.
This is the bit where we would normally do correspondence.
Yes.
But there is none.
Oh.
If you have anything that you would like to say to us about any of the games that we talk about today or anything at all, please email me, elaine@nopunincluded.com.
Wow.
I know. Let's talk about the Old King's Crown, which is our main feature of this episode.
Just as well we don't have correspondence because there is a lot to go over.
There is a lot to go over. So I've played this 3 times now. You've
played this 4 times.
And you, importantly, I think, have played every faction.
I have, and we've not played this at 4 players, which I'm going to do tonight. But yeah, no, there is just, there's so much. This is... going to be an interesting discussion. This is definitely, I think, going to be one of the talked about games of the year. You know, it's going to grab people's attention. I think it's already grabbed people's attention just with the striking artwork. So this is designed by Pablo Clark, artwork by Pablo Clark, rulebook by Pablo Clark.
It's impressive, isn't it?
Publishing company, Eerie Idle Games, which I believe is Pablo Clark.
One-man band.
Yeah, first design. But the artwork is so striking that I think it captured a lot of people's attention. And the design is just beginning to talk about it conceptually is already very interesting. So we talked about this game a little bit in Work in Progress, where I mentioned that it's like someone took Citadels and made it big, you know? And that is not an unfair way to describe it. But also, I think a lot of people are going to be talking about it in relation to Root, which is that it's not really anything like Root. And I don't think this comparison is like legit in any way. Is it
because it's asymmetric?
It's because it's asymmetric. There are exactly 4 factions. It has a striking art style. Well, like Root's art style isn't so much striking anymore because, you know, animals in clothing has now been done so many times. But circling back to that, like, I don't think anyone's done it as well as Root has, you know, even though like many copycats have emerged, right? So this is a very striking art style. And I think that there's a big parallel here in that kind of how people perceive this game rather than these games being mechanically alike, but also they are experientially alike because there's a lot of depth to plumb within each faction and discover. And these are very confrontational and I don't want to say aggressive, but like more like tactical games that require you to kind of delve deep and like uncover these weird interactions that benefit you in powerful ways. And I feel like Root is very much like that, where like you have to understand not just your own faction, but every faction in the box. And there's just no way to do that from one play, right? You have to kind of, I think like your first 8 games of this are going to be a wash, because it's like the first time you play a faction, you're like, I'm beginning to understand. And then the second time you play a faction, you're like, okay, now I maybe get it, right? And then like once you have that, the game can begin almost, but it's not like a wash as in, oh well, whatever. It's like you are having a good time, but still, like they are like tutorial games, as it were. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think 8 games is maybe a bit much, though. I think there are certainly some factions that are more straightforward to play, and you would not need that amount of plays to get your head around them. And then others, one of the factions, the red one, whatever it's called,
the Rebellion faction, yeah.
I think that's a fairly tricky faction to play.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's certainly, I think you need to be more aggressive with it than some of the other factions.
Right, but it's also not just learning how to play, it's learning how to play against them as well. That's what I mean when I say like these are going to be tutorial games, right?
Yeah.
They are going to, like, you are not going to partake in the full confrontational depth of this game until like you have a kind of almost like innate familiarity of what everyone and everything can do,
and more familiarity with the kingdom cards and how they interact with each other,
because there's so many of them and you only go through so much in any given game. So I know I still haven't seen all of them, like, because at the end of the last game I was like, some of them I've seen before, right? And some of them are becoming familiar, but like I just want to go through there's a bunch that I've not even encountered. So we've said a lot already without even saying what like the game really is. I'm just trying to like draw this on this false parallel to Root, because I think it will be happening, because there is a lot of like experiential stuff that is similar to Root, not least because there's a big thank you in the rulebook to Cole Worley and everyone at Leader Games for, like helping with advice in terms of development and design.
It's definitely an ambitious project.
Yeah, right? So there is a lot of like kind of genealogy happening here, but also what I really like about it, and I think what's really cool about it, is how unique it feels and how like nothing else it kind of feels. It does build on that basic principle of Citadels, where everyone plays a card face down, and then you reveal these cards, and like whoever has the highest number wins. But there's a lot of funky interactions between these cards and how they play with each other. So that is kind of the broad scope of the game. The setting of it is that the king has died. You're all like leaders of one of the game's 4 factions. You're trying to position yourself as the king, and you're going to use this faction's power to kind of bring yourself there. And so the board of the game is composed of like this big area where free clashes are happening. There are 3 regions, and each region has 2 locations, and you're trying to win like every region, because for every region you win, you will choose one of the locations in that region. You'll score the victory points that it grants you, which is usually 1, with one exception 2. And then it'll let you do like a special ability that is kind of hard to describe in a board game review, because they're all intimately tied to the game's rules and how the game functions and how it lets you manipulate. But let's say, for example, everyone starts with a symmetric deck, right, of faction cards, which are these cards that you play face down, right? Mm-hmm. But there is an asymmetric pile of cards that are upgrades that you can add to your deck that let you do things that other players can't do. Now, to get these cards, you need this special resource called lore, which you can get by discarding and you're allowed to do this once per round only, and there are 5 rounds in the game, you can discard a card, and for every scroll on that card, you will get this lore-like resource, right? But if you win in one of the regions, not only can you do it again, but you can also do it with one of the cards that you pitched into the battles rather than from your hand, which is incredibly effective and like resource kind of
resource effective.
Resource effective, right? Because there's efficient, right? There's this weird mechanism in the game where like once your deck runs out, you just reshuffle your discard pile and you have your deck again, except you have to turn this dial down that says your hand size decreases by 1. And your hand size, like it's 6, which sounds like a lot, but actually 6 isn't that much for everything you want to do. You're already struggling. It can technically tick up, but I've never seen the card that lets you do that.
I don't know how it
is
that.
Apparently in the Kingdom deck.
Is it?
Okay. It is in the Kingdom deck, and there must be 2 because you can tick it up to
twice,
8. Right?
Yeah.
So this exists. I've never seen it happen, which is funky. And it sounds really powerful as well, just having one more card than everyone else. Oof, tasty.
Yeah, you start with 6 cards in your hand. And you think this is quite a lot. This is good. And then you sort of mentally go, okay, well, I'm going to use this one for journeying to get the lore resource. Okay, that's fine. Then I'm going to use this one for this other thing that you can do, where governing, where you can put your card on a council and it will give you something potentially. Okay. Oh, I've got to pitch one for the
Kingdom card that you want to win, which is the Kingdom we'll get to those in a bit. Yeah.
And then I've got to use 3. Another 3. Oh, wait, I've run out. Wait, that's too many cards. I've run out of cards.
Right.
So, yeah, it is really tight. You feel like you have a lot of cards, but you use them all.
Yeah, exactly.
Potentially.
Right? So you have 14 in your deck, and so 6, that's 12, right? And on your 3rd round, if you don't do anything about it, you will have to tick down your hand size.
But there are fortunately ways to get them back.
Exactly, which is, again, winning these clashes. So, for example, there's a region that lets you like shuffle 3 cards from your discard pile back into your hand randomly. So, these battles are like you only win one victory point for them, right? But that one victory point feels so important and the ability feels so important. I really like a low victory point game because every victory point is a journey, like oh, I got it in this way, and so it feels meaningful. So, and there's just a lot of really clever design decisions in this. So, for example, we've talked about these Kingdom cards. The Kingdom cards are the one thing that kind of gives you immediate asymmetry, right? There's 2 things that give you immediate asymmetry, but this is like the standout one because you can only have 2 Kingdom cards, and I think that's also really good design. You enter a bidding war at the beginning of every round for who gets to take a Kingdom card first, right? You can also steal them from other players in a very nifty mechanism, because the higher the card you bid for, the harder it is later for it to be stolen with.
Yeah.
But also, it's the same cards that you use in battles, and it's just such a crunchy decision.
So if you use one of them to bid with, if you use your 10 to bid with, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to get this, but then it goes like into your player board to protect the Kingdom card. And I mean, there are things that can let you swap that around, but it is there now.
Yeah.
You cannot use it in the battles.
Right? But also, like, these are so game-breakingly powerful, right? It's this immediate thing that tells you, this is how I stand out in this game. And what's clever is that you only, like, have 2 of them, right? At most. There is a faction that lets you have a 3rd one, but generally you have 2 of them at most, and like it's such a good way of going, here's the 2 things that set me apart. And it's very good design as well for getting people into the game, because this game is overwhelming. There is so much going on, there's so much to keep track of. So like every time we finish this like bidding for these Kingdom cards, you know, like the offering of the Kingdom cards pretty much resets itself to new cards. And so, like, because they're also game breaking, everyone just kind of goes, okay, let's pause the game. We now have to like evaluate every card. Everyone needs to understand what they do, right? So there is that slowness to the game as everyone gets acclimatized to it, like, and accounting for all the different things that are possible. But also, once you do have this kingdom card, everyone knows you as that person that can do that thing that no one else can do. For example, turn order is very important in this game. Being last is incredibly powerful. Normally, whoever has the least victory points is last. But there is a kingdom card that says, you know what? You set the turn order however you like.
Yeah.
Right? And that's like a medium tier card as well, right? Like, it's nice. It can be important in certain situations, crucial, maybe game winning, but there are maybe even better cards out there. That's what's wild for me.
I think any of those cards, they can seem incredibly powerful, or, oh no, why did I take that? Depending on what your game plan is. Some of them, I think, I stand out for sure, but I think the majority of them work really well with certain ways that you're playing the game. Like, so I had a card that anytime that I journeyed with a specific type of card that has this like map symbol on it, I would get 2 lore tokens and also a victory point. So that became my kind of game plan. And then I kept trying to do that. But there is also another kingdom card that gives your other cards that map symbol. So it adds to what you're trying to do. So suddenly your deck becomes a lot more useful for this goal. Whereas if you get another kingdom card that, you know, doesn't work so well with that, then it's not going to be as good for you, but it might be really good for someone else.
I think it's just such elegant design. And it's kind of strange to call this game elegant because it is in so many ways overwrought. It is an idea we've seen before that usually is very simple, and here it is just expanded, right? And there are things about it that are not elegant, you know, like there's a lot of rules that are to do with like timing and how many times you can do this thing, and like what is an action versus an effect versus a command. So for example, and there's 4 like action types, which some of them are not actions. So there's actions, effects, commands, abilities. Commands can be actions or effects. Actions being optional things you can do if you want to in specific timing windows, which are spring, day, which happens in summer, and autumn. And then there's also effects, which are night, which happens again in summer, and winter, which is in the cleanup step. And effects are mandatory, you have to do them. But then the commands can be both actions and effects. It took me 3 games to understand why commands even exists as a term when they're already both actions and effects, and what is it that distinguishes them. At first I thought, oh, commands are just the things that are specifically on the cards, but that's not necessarily true, because kingdom cards can grant you commands via an action, which already like kind of broke my brain. But then I realized that because commands can be specifically, as denoted by the rulebook, repeated multiple times, only certain ones, but actions can only be done once per round. So you can do a once per round action that grants you a command that happens multiple times around. Internalizing all of that was not easy. The rulebook is mostly very good.
I was going to ask you how the rulebook is when it has all these ethereal concepts to explain,
right? But I will say that it doesn't always put the right, like it has all the rules, but it doesn't always put the right emphasis
right
on you. Like, it does a pretty good job of teaching you the game, and then there's a glossary at the back that I really appreciated because it just explains everything succinctly when you need to look it up. but it doesn't always put the right emphasis on the right things. For example, there's this effect called deadly, and on the standard card that you have that has deadly, there's a second interaction that really confused me about if this card kills other cards, or when does it kill other cards, or when it doesn't kill other cards, because it says, oh, if there's any of this symbol, I'm like, what is this symbol? what does the symbol refer to? And it is in the rule book, right? But I did have to post a BGG rules question to be like, how does this work? And only then I realized, oh, it's a specific card type. So if this card meets this other cards, they don't kiss and make up. They do the opposite, right? You know. So there is a lot of clunk to these rules that kind of you need to internalize to understand the tactical flow of the game.
I feel like anytime we got stuck rules-wise, they were very nuanced situations that were going on, that we weren't sure how cards interacted with each other, or things like that you wouldn't necessarily be able to lay out very well in the rule book. So, but I'm glad the rule book was fine overall. Like, you taught me the game, and it made a lot of sense. You didn't seem to struggle with, like, you know, it wasn't one of those games where you learn the rules and go, I think I know how to play this. I think I know how to teach it, but we'll see. It wasn't like that. So yeah, I think you did a good job of teaching it.
Well, I've taught this game 3 times now. So the first time I taught it, I did like a kind of a, let's just like teach you, let me just teach you in practice, right? We'll play like a dummy round. But the more I've done it, the more actually I've kind of dialed it in, and I don't need to do that anymore. I think I can explain the game more succinctly without doing that, just by getting out quick examples and saying, this is how this works, this is how that works. And I kind of know which rules interactions I need to explain now versus which are fine to kind of explain and play and won't catch people off guard. Yeah, there's still things I kind of miss and forget, you know, like, for example, and again, I don't think the rulebook emphasizes this, but there is a component that says at the end of the game, you'll also score points for this, right, if this happens. But like, I don't remember the emphasis in the rulebook for that to say, hey, this could be like a strategy that you do. Because if you get like enough lore tokens to purchase all of your asymmetric cards and you have ones left over, you'll get a point for every 2 lore tokens that you have left over. And that's kind of like almost unachievable in your first game, but we've done it now. We gotten extra points from this thing. So but
there's only 5 rounds. So if you look at that and go, well, that's part of my strategy, I'm going to get as many points as I can from clearing out all these cards, you're not going to get many points within 5 rounds. Because you need to buy the cards.
No, it's a bonus. It's a Brucey bonus, right? But I kind of want to talk about the Herald, because that is another bit of like really, really clever design that I really like. So, as I mentioned, there are 3 clashes happening every round. You're fighting over 3 regions. Whoever has the highest number wins. But where it gets really like woolly is that everyone has this piece called the Herald that signals this person is going to want to fight for this region more than the others, because you can't win every region, right? I mean, sometimes you do, and you feel really, really good, right? but you can't always win every region. So, but everyone gets to place their Herald before anyone places any cards face down even. And that Herald says that if you win this region and you select this location as the like winning location where you place the Herald, you will get an extra point. And an extra point is a big deal. But then also, right, if there are any other Heralds in that region, you steal a point from the players who place that Herald there. And that is such a salt on the wound moment, because not only did they lose the fight, fight that they wanted to win, right?
Had a point stolen from them.
Yeah. I really, really like this, because this is such a clever way of kind of, first of all, signaling. But in a game where like there is so much hidden information, signaling is such a powerful tool, right? Because you're saying, I want to fight for this, right?
Or do you?
Or do you? Because maybe you feel confident about that area already enough that you're probably going to win it anyway. Or maybe you don't care. Maybe you actually care about something else so much more that you are basically signaling away from where you actually want to win. Maybe you have an ability that'll let you move your herald, right?
Right.
Maybe you have other shenanigans. I don't know. There's so many things you can do in this game that are hidden. So, for example, there's a card with flank. So you, if you open it in the first clash, you don't have to keep it in the first clash. You can move it away from the fight into a clash that hasn't happened yet. But it is the last player in turn order that determines the order of these clashes. So it's like, oh, right. So if I have a card with flank, I can play it and hopefully move it from one area to another area to like land it in an advantageous area. But then wait a minute, like I don't even, if I'm not last, I'm not gonna,
well, you don't know.
Yeah, I don't know
if that's going to work
if it's going to
out.
be in the first clash. That's like aces because you can flank and then flank again. That's so sweet. But maybe not. Like there's so much is left up in the air. For me, a lot of this game feels almost like mystical because like it seems like so kind of simple. Like you can only play one card and there's one card and then you reveal them and then the highest strength wins, right? That it's very simple. But somehow by the end of it, like you end up doing things that you didn't think you could do. And like cards appear, disappear, they move around. But sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's just like you flip a card. Oh, okay. We just look at the numbers and like that's that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said a lot there, and I just want to go back to the Herald for a second.
Yes.
Because where the Herald is also funky is whilst you are vying for these 3 different regions and you will either win or lose 3 different regions, there are 6 spaces where you can put your Herald. And that is the ability that you'll get because each of these spaces has a victory point and a different ability. So you're also thinking about what ability do I want to get the most from this region. But then when you are fighting for the region, you're putting your supporters in the middle of the region because you're saying, I'm trying to win this whole region. So there's like you're conveying more messages to other people by saying, this is the thing I want, right? It's not just like there's something in this region that I want. You're saying that this is the spot I want and then everyone's going, well, why do they want this? Like, what can they do with this? If they get the ability that lets them journey, why do they want that? Or if they get the ability that lets them reset the court, so they take all the cards out of the court, why do they want to do that? Have I got loads of cards in the court? Do I want to stop this from happening? So suddenly your strategy becomes more or just as much about trying to stop someone else or figuring out why they're doing what they're doing as what you want to do to progress your own game. And I found that super interesting. What I liked about this game a lot was, which we kind of neglected a little bit to our peril, was the sequencing of the flow of this game. So because as you said, there's seasons. So you have spring, summer, autumn and winter. The winter is kind of a reset, and sometimes some things will happen in winter, but it's mostly resetting. But your abilities that you have, whether it's kingdom cards or whether it's the abilities on your board, will happen at different times of the year. So sometimes something will only trigger in spring, which means that it will happen after you have placed your cards and your herald and your supporters. No, sorry, you place the supporters in spring, but after you've done the herald and the cards, then you can do the spring actions. So you've already kind of committed a bit, but then maybe you've got something that's a spring action that can shuffle these around. So you've seen where everyone else has placed their supporters, and then maybe you can change what you're doing. And then when it comes to summer, that will happen during those fights. Summer things will happen during fights. So maybe you have something that's a summer action where, like, so the game we played yesterday, and I neglected it totally, and I did horribly, but I had an ability that could give a card deadly. So which was a summer action. So when it came to the fight, we revealed our cards. You had way higher number-wise than I had. I think I had a 3 and you had like 17 or something, like way higher. I could have used at that point. So it's in turn order again. So you could have done your summer actions, whatever, and then I could have given my 3 deadly, which would have killed both of your cards, or at least got them away. And so I could have won that fight. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that we neglected it to our peril was because...
if you don't follow that procedure, you will sometimes
confused.
forget. Yeah. You will forget the things that you can do. So you have to, step by step, go, okay, we reveal the cards. Then summer actions in turn. You first. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Then you.
Yeah.
Then night effects.
No, then autumn as well does the same thing. So there are some printed actions on the board that you can do in autumn, and everyone can do those actions in autumn if they want to and can do them. But you might have autumn actions on your own board, right? So if you don't follow that precisely, you're going, okay, you're looking at the board going, okay, it's the autumn phase, like everyone does the thing. And then you suddenly look back at your board because now we're in spring or winter or whatever, and we're resetting or whatever. Mm-hmm. You go, oh, I could have done this in autumn. I should have done that in autumn. And similarly, one of the cards that is in everyone's deck has a deploy ability on it, which happens in autumn, which is where you place the card in autumn and it stays on the board for the next year round, whatever. Yeah. So it will sit there and everyone will know that card is there, but you must do it before the round ends and it becomes that next round. So if you forget to do that, you're at a disadvantage.
And especially because deploy works on other cards where all the other cards, it's if it has a command, the card has to be in play, but deploy specifically, no, it has to be in your hand. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, there's so many quirky dirty rules that you really have to internalize. You have to be in tune with this game rules wise and all it wants to do. So it's not elegant in all of its aspects. Definitely it requires a lot of chrome to kind of propel it along and make it work. Mm-hmm. But it's evident why all of these rules exist because they speak to the interactions of the game, right? They speak to the tactics.
Yeah.
And so it's not that hard to internalize them. What's more hard to internalize is the different things that everyone can do. Which I guess brings me to a question. You've played the same faction twice, right? Did you feel like you get to do a lot of kind of building on the knowledge that you've gained from the first game to play in the second game?
I think I had a better idea of how to use the one-time abilities for that faction, because the first time we played it was round 3 before I thought I could do something with these. Why haven't I played any of these? But I still felt that feeling of, should I do this now or should I wait? Could I get a better return on it if I leave it a little bit and do it at some other point?
I don't think we've explained tactics actually, which is another.
Oh, I guess not. Yeah,
it's the asymmetric part, the other asymmetric part of your faction, where every faction gets 4 tactics. They are technically, you could get a kingdom card that resets it, but technically they are use it and lose it abilities that are asymmetric and unique, and there's 4 of them, right? And because there are only 5 rounds, you kind of want to use them, right?
Yeah.
But when? Which is the time where this is going to be best utilized, because they are all quite, again, like the kingdom cards, they are all quite powerful. And it's is it now? Do I push the button now? Right?
And sometimes you go, I'm going to wait a little bit. And then you've realized you've left it a bit too late, actually. So I think that internalizing of my faction and how it works was stronger. But because the kingdom cards are so varied, I think it means that I never quite felt like, oh, okay, I absolutely know what this does now. Because it didn't do the same thing as last time, and it didn't do the same thing as it did 2 rounds ago. Do you know what I mean? So I think I was always conscious of, okay, read your cards, Elaine, every time. Like, just keep reading them. Just make sure you know what all these do. So, I mean, I've only played it twice. Maybe if I played that faction, several times, then maybe. How did you feel about playing the different factions?
I took the tour, right?
Yeah, you took the tour.
Yeah. Interesting. So I definitely noticed that some factions I think are easier to play. So the seafaring teal colored faction is very beginner friendly, and I think the Gathering, the one you played, is also quite friendly. It's like so one of them, the teal faction focuses on moving like the cards around like the board and or the pieces. So basically you get to manipulate the strength that you have in every clash, which in a game with hidden information is so very evidently powerful, right? It's like, oh, right, like I had low numbers, suddenly I have high numbers, right? Is that good? Yes. And the purple, the Gathering faction, which is kind of like themed as a cult. The theming of this is so swish. But like that focuses on manipulating basically your hand size and what you have in your hand, and like getting cards back, which again in a game of attrition effectively, that is very powerful, right?
Yeah. Like
to redeploy the same tools over and over and over again, the powerful tools, is good. Like, who knew? So the red faction, which is the very like Star Wars Andor adjacent, like this is how hard it is to be the rebellion. It's hard. That requires on kind of guesstimating what others have played, and to do that effectively you have to understand how the other factions work and also the weird quirks that they can do, right? So it needs intimate understanding of the game, and at this early stage of us me having played it 4 times, you having played it 3, we don't.
No, we don't.
So playing red is hard, and the blue faction, I don't quite understand. It's like, I mean, I understand it conceptually. It's like kind of big beefy things, I think, that are defensive, right? Like I just play high cards and stuff.
We've both only played the red faction once, though, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I feel like we're at a sort of similar level with understanding how that one works.
Yeah, and the blue faction,
which is not at all.
yeah. The blue faction we played, like, it was in our games only once. And in the first game, I played it, and then no one ever wanted to play the nobility. I wonder why. I don't know. So I don't really have any good insight on how that works. But it's interesting. It's very interesting how, like, you have a game that only has 4 factions, and not all of them are equally easy to play. So it's not a particularly like kind of an onboarding experience in that regard, because like if like, I don't know, if I introduce this game to people, do I have to play the red faction all the time? It's not quite my play style, right? I don't enjoy that play style, but do I have to play this now every time? I guess I do.
But is that weird though?
It's not. I mean, Root was the exact same way, wasn't it? Like it is the same kind of thing.
Well, yeah, maybe, but I felt like that catered pretty well to different play styles.
Yes.
I never felt like one was specifically easier. Like if you enjoyed a certain, like I really like the birds, if you enjoy the programming element, then you're not going to necessarily find that harder to play because you enjoy that type of thing.
I think just I think that this does the same thing where like they in Root there were factions that were evidently harder to
manipulate.
To win with.
Oh, I see.
Right? Manipulate, no. Win with,
I see.
yes.
Yeah, I understand.
Right? I think I had one bad play experience of this over the course of the 4 plays. There was one play where I just didn't feel like I could do anything. Like nothing was done and nothing was achieved, and And I'm not even sure that it's partly to do with the faction that I was playing and more to do with just things shaking out where like nothing was happening for me.
You said I enjoyed watching the other people play.
Yes.
That's what you said.
And I did. Like, I still had a good time at the game, which I think speaks to the game's strength rather than anything else. But I did have one play where I just felt completely like pegged in a corner, and I was like watching other people do cool things. And anytime I even attempted to do anything, I got punished for it immensely. And sometimes it's just, well, that was completely arbitrary. Like, none of that was in my control in any way whatsoever, right? And I think it's important to mention that because this is a spiky game that can do that and will do that, right? And if you are not on board with that, if you are not on board with internalizing a bunch of different asymmetric abilities, changing board states, and like super abilities that people can bid for, right? And if you're not on board with like that simultaneous reveal kind of bidding style gameplay, right? This is pain. This is that box from Dune where you put your hand in and it's pain, right?
I see.
Like it can be
not,
harsh.
Not doing the board game.
No. That you know where like
the board game does not have a box where you put your hand in and it's pain.
no, it's where the Bene Gesserit woman says, "Put your hand inside the box," and Paul Atreides says, "What's inside?" And she goes, "Pain."
That was very good.
Yeah.
I like this better, I think, at 3. I don't think it played better. I'm not saying that. I think I just enjoyed it better at 3 rather than 2 because it felt a little bit less head to head and a little bit less like, well, this person just did this to spite me. It felt more like, well, this person did this, they've spited me, but it's because they're playing the game.
Yeah.
Because it still gives me that feeling. You know, like you're saying about you need to be on board with certain things to enjoy this game. And I think another thing you need to be on board with is the fact that you can be doing pretty well and then it can all go wrong very quickly. There is not that feeling of, well, you know, I'm X number of victory points ahead. I'm probably going to get this.
If you ever feel like that, this is when you lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You never quite feel like, I think I can do this. It's always like, well, what are the other players going to do to stop me doing this?
There's also, I think I enjoyed the 2-player most, actually, because it felt like you're the most in control. It's the most predictable, you know? It's like you only have to guess what one other person has done, right? Whereas, you know, 3 players, it just felt like anything could happen here, right? Like anything could, right? It's easier to track what your opponent has played already. Yeah. It's the most kind of, it feels like the tightest as a confrontation, right? At 4, I imagine it's just complete chaos. We'll find out tonight. But I'm looking forward to that experience as well because there's something to it. I think the one thing I want to add to everything is that there is like such immense joy within this game of like even like that many plays in, we still feel like we're only scratching the surface, and that's because every time we play, we discover like this new interaction, this new thing that like we hadn't noticed before. Oh, like, oh, you could do this as well. And then you could do it this way. And then, oh, wow, you could like, oh my God. Oh, next game, I'm definitely going to try doing that. Right. Like there's
a nice feeling, right?
Yeah. This is definitely a game for people who don't mind this sort of cutthroat confrontation, but also who do enjoy like plumbing the depths of something. It's not exactly system mastery. It's just kind of like, you know, like when you're playing, I don't know, like a platformer and you discover like a hidden, like secret, like level or passageway that you didn't know before. And you're like, oh, wow, I can do this now, right? Like you unlock an ability effectively. So this feels akin to that. Do you want to speak about the artwork?
I want to say first, yes, yeah, we can speak about the art for sure. But I want to say first that you are right. Like, it is like where you have a platformer and you realise you can do something. Because similarly with platformers, you realise that if you'd had this special ability back then, you could have done this thing that you've just found out a lot better now.
Right? Yeah.
Right? Do you understand what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like, if you're Fireball Mario instead of Tiny Mario, you're going to be much better at doing the secret level.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like that. So I totally agree with you. The artwork, yes, I really like it a lot. I like the box art very much. It is so intricate. It is so tiny. And like, there's so many little details to look at and look for. I love it.
I love the framing of the board. It's that, like, you are almost like through a window looking out onto the vista of the entire kingdom. And it's like you're almost in this little shack, right? Like making your plans for how to seize this land, right? And so it's very evocative. And I think a lot of people will relate this to Studio Ghibli because it does have a similarity in style. But I think when people like speak about Studio Ghibli, they often speak about like, oh, it's cute, you know, it's cutesy.
Well, no,
right?
a lot of it's not, though.
But that's the whole thing.
Like
a lot of
No
it
Face.
isn't. Right? Yeah. A lot of it is really, really sinister. And I think this carries that across, where it is using this sort of almost like complexity of picture that embodies serenity and it's actually, there's something that belies that, right? There's something sinister underneath. And of course it is. This is a game about succession, right? And it makes you into dirty bags, right? Like it makes you into, like I said, you know,
like
dirt bags. Yeah. And there is an element of this artwork being very bright and scenic and characterful that speaks to that hidden element in the same way that Studio Ghibli often does, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So I like that the two are adjacent because I think there is something there that makes this not just stand out because it does stand out, right? But it kind of speaks to the core of the game.
I hadn't thought about it at all as being Studio Ghibli-esque, but now you say it, absolutely, totally agree.
I think, like by now, it's pretty evident that you know this is something we're very enamored with, and that there is a lot to this game. And actually, like the first time we played it, I think you struggled with it like way more than I have. Do you feel? Because of that confrontational nature, do you feel like that's mellowed out a bit and you're able to enjoy the game more? Because it's not exactly your bag, is it?
You are right. I don't particularly like
bidding.
Bidding, well,
Right,
no, yeah. But actually, no, the bidding I think is fine because all you're bidding for is one of the kingdom cards. And sometimes there's something you really want and sometimes there's not. And so I think that's fine. Well, I guess sometimes you're just trying to get it so that someone else doesn't get it.
Yeah.
You know, it's good for them. But that was fine. But I think it's like any game that there's a lot to it. There's a lot of cards that you don't know what they do, how they interact. There's other players' cards that you don't know what they do or how they interact, and what they can do to you. So it very much gave me, the first time we played it, the feeling that I had when I first played Magic the Gathering, and in fact still get when I play Magic the Gathering, because I don't, not that I play it anymore, but do you know what, if I played it again now, I would still get that feeling, because I never got into it enough to have that kind of brain synergy where I know what my cards do and I know what might come out and I know what's in my deck and you know, this kind of business. I know how they interact with everyone else's decks. And so I feel, now I've played it a couple more times, I do feel much better about it. Yes, I do, because there's far fewer cards, and there is more of a system behind it. There are surprises, but there are fewer surprises.
There's rigidity within that.
Yeah, exactly. So the first time we played it, I was quite overwhelmed by learning what my faction did, learning what your faction did, and just learning the game, like knowing how to play the game. But I felt less like that the more I've played it.
I think I guess I was on a similar journey, you know, but like it's like every play reinforced more and more how the game actually works. It's not that I didn't know how to play it. It's more like I didn't understand the nuance of it, and the more I go through it, the more I feel like, oh yeah, okay, right. I'm gelling with this now. And so every play, even the one that was, you know, where I felt like I couldn't do anything. I felt like I was learning more about the game, and it was interesting to see everything that it can offer. I think it's obvious we're gonna end up covering this on video as well, so look out for that in the future. I know there is an expansion that's releasing on when the game is actually out. I'm not too jazzed about it because it's like there's 6 modules, and I feel like the core of this is so tight that messing with it is on day
Wild Kingdom is what it's called.
Wild Kingdom, yeah. Like, I don't know if I want the Wild Kingdom. I feel like...
You don't want a Wild Kingdom?
I feel like this kingdom is already...
Wild.
There's a lot to handle in this kingdom, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know if I want it wilder, right? But we'll see. And so this is something to look forward to. I'm not a fan of day one expansions. I think I'm starting to view them more as like, you know, like with when you buy a video game on Steam and you buy like it from an indie developer, like there's always like now DLC that says like there's nothing here, but you can like spend more money if you just want to support this developer. I feel like I want board game publishers to market their day one expansions more like that. Like, this is just a little extra if you want to throw more money at us, right? If you feel like supporting us.
Just be more upfront about it.
Yeah. So, but who knows? Maybe I'm wrong on this one. Maybe this is like a really well thought out and designed 6 modules expansion, right? It remains to be seen. And I did forget to mention at the beginning of the video, so I will do now. We mentioned this in the previous work in progress. This is a loaner copy.
Yeah.
As in, we have purchased a copy of this game, but I wanted to purchase this early copy at UK Games Expo from the publisher. They did not have the ability to sell it to me, so this is a copy that I have until my copy arrives, and then I will send this back, right? Not technically a review copy, but there is like a form of bias implicit in that. So there you go. That's The Old King's Crown. What a good game. I enjoyed it. Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it.
Good. We're going to wrap it up here.
That is all the games that we have for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. And with that, why don't you say goodbye, Efka?
Goodbye, Efka.
Goodbye, Efka.